everybody. I'm Kat, but you can call me Ms. Timpf if you're nasty. So, let's talk about the Supreme Court and a law called Section 230. I know what you're thinking. Kat, that has numbers in it. Ew, gross. If I cared about triple-digit numbers, I'd look up ratings for CNN. But if this law goes away, it could destroy the internet as we know it. But don't worry, Joey, porn will still be available, so you won't lose your second job. Get it? You thought I was saying he liked porn, but I'm saying he's in porn.
It's a niche market.
Thank you for your service.
Ew.
So, this week, the Supreme Court heard 2 cases from families who lost loved ones in terrorist attacks. And those families are suing social media companies, alleging they should be held liable for helping ISIS. One case involved the 2015 Paris attacks. It argued that YouTube's algorithms recommended ISIS propaganda to users. The other case claimed Twitter gave ISIS assistance and didn't do enough to police them from sharing content. And that's where Section 230 comes in. It is a short law written in 1996 that's said to have created the internet. It goes like this. No provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. Those words allowed the internet to grow exponentially over the past 25 years because sites like Google, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook couldn't be sued over the content users post on their platforms. Now, that was great for anyone who loved free speech. But like when the president climbs stairs, it comes with a risk. Now, obviously, no one wants to stand on the side of terrorists, even if the fear of further lawsuits sent Mark Zuckerberg fleeing to his home planet. Imagine how pissed off he would look. And for reference, here he is having sex. But changing this law would open the door for censoring things other than terrorism, too. And once that door is open, it'll be harder to close than Don Lemon's mouth. Think about it. It's not like ISIS content gets through because big tech people love ISIS. Of course they don't. ISIS isn't vegan. And they don't wear hoodies to work. It's because companies can't catch everything that everyone is posting all of the time. Otherwise, they'd be sending a SWAT team after every creep in my comments section. Check your grandfathers, please. Okay. And we know ISIS content is not always overtly labeled for what it really is. And I get it. It's easy to hate big tech. They bop around San Francisco, drinking oat milk lattes and acting like they're so much better than you. Well, at least whenever they do take a break from whining about having to come into the office. If I wanted to hear people bitch about their cushy jobs, I'd have lunch with Jimmy Fallon. But recently, both political sides have argued in favor of ending Section 230. For liberals, it's about the hate speech on the platform. Of course, their definition of hate speech is broader than a Kardashian's ass. For conservatives, it's about wanting to hold big tech liable for silencing or shadow banning their views, like crazy conspiracy theories about gross stuff on Hunter Biden's laptop, which could be traced back to gross stuff on Hunter Biden's laptop. But all of the bad things about big tech and a desire for your voice to be heard are exactly why you should want to keep Section 230. If you think big tech censorship is bad now, just imagine how many more things would get censored if these platforms had to worry about getting sued. It would be like trying to watch the movie Scarface, as if it were edited by Dana Perino. It would be 10 minutes long and about dogs. Bottom line, these platforms would be most worried about getting sued by those with the greatest means to do so, the powerful. And if companies like Twitter have to worry about that, and they know that it's basically impossible to keep track of everything being posted, don't you think they might just automatically decide to ban any mention of those people at all? And when it comes to bad press, the rich and powerful can be a real pain in the ass. So without Section 230, I'm afraid that the ability to speak truth to power on the internet might completely disappear. Although I admit, if pics from randos went away, I would be very happy. But that's really, really not about speech. And I am a firm believer that free speech is good. The answer to speech you disagree with is never to shut it down, but to answer with your own. That's why I talk so much. I do it for my country. Plus, blaming a social media site for what a person posts makes about as much sense as blaming a gun for what a person shoots. Didn't work for Alec Baldwin, and it ain't gonna work for us. Let's welcome tonight's guest. He was the half in 2.5 Men. Retired Marine Corps, come on. He's laughing. Bomb technician Johnny Joey Jones.
That was good. A long way.
She's not angry. That's just how she talks. Co-host of The Five, Judge Janine Pirro. He looks like Peter Pan if he grew up to run a hookah bar. Comedian host of the new show, Who the Bleep Is That? Jeff Dye. And it takes a forest to make his wooden clogs. My massive sidekick and the NWA's World Heavyweight Champion, Tyrus. Okay, so, yeah, I chose this as a monologue topic because a lot of liberals and a lot of conservatives hate Section 230, and I just guess I haven't had enough people yelling at me. Joey, do you think that there's any validity to the concern that repealing it would end up censoring conservatives more?
Sure, but also, like, if you break it, you buy it, is where I land on this. So I believe in Section 230. I believe the internet should be a place of free speech, but you kind of have to turn it back around to social media companies and say, once you start censoring, you're liable for censoring, so now you're curating. So I think, like, it's really more of a bluff than anything of, like, you know, hey, social media companies, if you want it to be free speech, let it be free speech and don't edit anything off there. So it's either one or the other. It either has to be a post-it board or a curated presentation, and that's the problem. I mean, maybe this isn't as easy as a partisan talking point for the first time in politics for a while. I mean, it's like, you know, we hate Twitter, but we like Elon. You know, it's like we hate electric cars. Oh, but they're built in America. There's some duality here. Maybe big tech isn't the worst, but it's also not the best. I think the Supreme Court has their work made out for them. For me, I think social media is an absolute destructive thing to America. But Fox knows who I am because I had a Twitter, so.
Yeah. Yeah, Tyrus, you were saying in the green room that if social media ever went away, you have no idea what you would do.
Yeah. Yeah. Boy. This is the part where I tell you guys I was really high. No, you know what? I agree with John. There has to, maybe we come up with 231.
Yeah.
And we add a thing to where if you knowingly, because the biggest problem with Twitter before Elon bought it was that they were knowingly censoring and deciding what was newsworthy and what was not to favor a party. So in that case, the people who did that should be held accountable. Maybe not Twitter itself. It's kind of almost like with politicians, they have qualified immunity, which is something I think that needs to be adjusted. If you knowingly go out and push hate speech or willingly go after a group because you don't agree with their beliefs, you should be held accountable for that. So maybe you don't get to sue Twitter, but the CEOs who sat around with their lattes deciding that we don't need to hear what Johnny Joey has to say because he works for Fox, they should be held liable. Yeah, they should be held liable. So there's got to be, let's split the diff. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. 231. And I'm sorry I was high.
Paragraph Z.
Okay. So, Judge, you are a judge. And,
I guess an angry
Yes.
one, according to your introduction.
So, I mean, what Joey says, the law is 26 words. It doesn't allow anything. So that's a good point that you bring up, and that's what a lot of people are saying, that, you need to amend it or add something else. What do you think will happen here?
The problem with Section 230 is that it doesn't provide protection for certain people. Let me explain what I mean by that. If you allow anything to go on the internet, which is, I think, free speech at its best, but the problem is if you prioritize certain speech and if you allow certain speech that maybe is defamation or maybe libel, then the issue is whether or not you should be liable the way a publisher is.
Right.
So the question is, 230 is a platform. That book right there, if there are lies in Greg Gutfeld's book, you could sue the publisher.
Which there are.
But I'm not saying that. You could sue the publisher. So I'm not so sure that social media should get away with letting anything on their platform and saying we have nothing to do with it, because everyone has a bias. Everyone has a particular agenda. We found that out because of Elon Musk. And so I think there has to be some regulation. They can't willy-nilly let anything on without being responsible in some way. And so people who are maybe, end up being a terrorist because they learned about something on the internet, well, maybe these platforms should be more careful about certain things. I'm not saying suppress speech, but recognize when speech is not truthful and when they're prioritizing speech as compared to other speech.
I would just like to add that don't let anything willy-nilly on can also be good advice in other areas of life. Oh. Jeff, I want to really get you in here because you are well respected as the country's #1 United States code comedian.
That's true. I am the #1 non-trans cruise ship comedian in 2020. That's a fact. Thank you. No, I'll admit when I don't know stuff, I initially
By the way, that is a good thing.
Yeah.
So many people dig their heels in with stuff they know nothing about.
I tried to read. I don't. It's too complex for me. I don't understand. I don't know. I don't have any answers. I'm not complaining, but I also have no solutions for it. It seemed like a lot. I was going, I agree with this. I couldn't. I just liked the idea before I read it. I thought that there was ISIS had a guy that was in charge of their Facebook page. I pictured a guy being like, "You're not very good at this. Just run the socials." And he's like, "You've been poked by ISIS," or what? I don't know. But then I started to read it, and I was like, "I don't know anything about this."
Right. If it were that simple, and ISIS was verified as ISIS, they're like, "Oh, maybe don't let them on."
Turns out it's way more complex, and I leave it to others. I really don't know anything about this one.
Oh, you know what?
I do think you can have. You just cheered him for knowing nothing. You gotta love.
Well, no, I just said about this.
No, but I'm
No, I
saying,
think
yeah,
that's
I get
commendable.
it. I get it. But I still think there is free speech, yes, but there are consequences for what you say. So if you want to stand by what you say, understand there are consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And we seem to be living in a time where nobody wants consequences. They just want all their feelings to be facts and no one to ever check them. So there needs to be a check.
Well, that's the problem with anonymity on Twitter also, because I can just make up a thing and then say a bunch of crazy stuff. How do you hold them accountable?
Yeah. Well, the problem here is...
That's why you go to the...
Judge, you said something about, if you know it's not fact, if you have fact checkers at all, now you're liable for everything that isn't a fact that you don't label not a fact. That's the problem, right? It's if you just say, hey, it's on there, you decide if you want to believe it, that is Section 230, right?
That's too easy.
But once you start saying, hey, that's not true, this might be true.
How about child pornography? That's too easy. You can't just say, let them put on whatever they want. No, there has to be some accountability, some responsibility. Inciting to riot, child pornography, all kinds of defamation. As you say, you don't know who's saying it, but if you allow this, knowingly allow it, and we know it from Elon Musk and we know it from Twitter, if you allow this kind of thing to proliferate, then there are consequences.
Yeah, but
you guys, we do have to go to
law.
We do have to go to break, but you guys are all invited to come over to my apartment later, and we can continue to hash this out.
Okay.
All right, great. Okay.
Perfect.
Yes. Okay.
What's your exact address?
Yes.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.